Okay, we're going to look at the DREADBOX TYPHON. I'm not going to go through everything, I'm just going to go through a few features in a few different videos, just to give you my opinion on what I think of it and how it kind of is in use, rather than going through every separate thing. The first thing I want to talk about is the oscillators, the way they're configured in this one dial. You've got both oscillators, so from there it's FM, and that's oscillator 2, which is this is the tune for. It's frequency modulating with oscillator 1. Expect. Next you got just oscillator 2, sine wave, triangle wave. +1, +2 octave. Then you got the triangle wave on oscillator 2 added with the square wave. Just the square wave on oscillator 1. Square and triangle. One saw on oscillator 2. Two saws. It's quite weird because it sort of is a little bit limiting, because it, for a start, you can't. So I've got a triangle and a square. So I can only have the square wave an octave below the triangle, because the triangle oscillator 2, I can go from the same octave an octave up, 2 octaves up. Let's go an octave up. So I only can have the square as the sub-oscillator. I can't have the triangle as a sub-oscillator and the square going up an octave, because this doesn't go minus an octave. I've seen some videos where people think that's on the same octave and that's plus an octave and that's minus an octave, but it's not. You only go up 1 or 2 octaves, or any note in between. So it's sort of limiting in that sense. And it's also quite weird, you go from 2 oscillators to 1 to 2 to 1 to 2 to 1, and then the FM. So when you go through them all, there's quite a lot of variation in sort of pitches, sorry, not in pitches, in volumes, as well as just the waveforms. You do get subtler sort of pulse width modulation. You get it on just a single square. I think you get it on the square and the triangle. I don't know if you get it on that square. Hard to say what's going on. There's something going on. And I thought, well, this is just a really strange decision, because you're so used to having total control over each oscillator's pitch and waveform, unless it's a single oscillator synth with a sub-oscillator, then you get limited control on that. So I just thought, well, why have they done that? It seems a strange choice to do. But I think that variation in what's going on there can give you quite a few different things, especially if you start modulating. So I'm only going to quickly look into the modulators. I want to look into them a bit more. And the way this is set up, there's not really menu diving. You've got your pages across the top here. So you've got modulator 1, 2 and 3, and FX 1, 2 and 3, and then a setup page, which is sort of basic synthesizer, you know, key tracking, velocity, not velocity, FM amount, filter FM amount, glide and stuff like that. Let's go back to a modulator. Modulator 1 is on LFO. You just press this to cycle, and all it is these sliders here correspond to that page. And that's it really. And there's like one page in each. So all you're doing is changing the value, what these operate. That's it really. There's a little bit there are some menus, but they're more sort of setup things. More sort of global kind of things and stuff like that. But on the stuff you use all the time, you're just changing the functions of these sliders. And then you change what, like LFO, envelope, sample and hold, or random generator, and step sequencer. And this is a separate step sequencer to the actual sequencer. This is like a modulator for step sequencing effects, basically. Though you can step sequence the notes as well. You've got CV, which is both oscillators. You see there, CV destination, CV1 oscillator 1, CV2 oscillator 2. So you can have two step sequences operating two different pitches, basically. So you can get some dual phonic stuff going on. So what we're going to look at, let's get LFO. I want to go to the wave, put the level up. Let's go all the way up. So this is changing the wave form now. Minus as well. So you get sort of random variations, but what I like using is either the sample hold but the step sequencer. So here we got the step sequencer modulator, 4 steps, goes up to 32 steps, but just keep it simple. So 4 steps, and then this gives you the 1 to 4. Or if you've got 32, it gives you 1 to 32, and you've got control over each individual step. So 1 to 4, step 1. We're going to pump. Why is that not? Oh, there we go. So you have to latch, because it's on latch mode. I have to go hit the 0 for it to slide on. You can have it so it just picks up when you move it. Depends, and that goes for the dials as well. But at the moment, I've got it all set up in latch mode. This is the firmware 2 update, so there might be a few things different from the original update. First thing, so let's go step 1. Step 2. So you can hear that cycling through different wave settings, so it's actually moving this around in steps. What's quite interesting, if you actually change the pitch of the second oscillator, and where you change the dial affects where those levels are hitting. Step 3, step 4, let's add a bit more variation. I'm confusing this level with this level. This is the level of the overall effect. This is the level of each step. So that's quite an interesting effect you can get just from one modulator modulating the wave. It can almost sound like some notes being triggered. Which is, you know, quite a nice feature. Now what we're going to do is go up in the setup mode in the menu, go to sync options. This is modulator 1, 2 and 3 and FX3, which is the delay and reverbs. Modulator 1, we're synced to BPM, you can sync to key and BPM key, which is just slightly variations, whether it starts all the time when you press the key or just triggers to the BPM wherever the BPM is. So let's have it on that for now. Let me set up another modulator. Okay. So that's modulating the wave. And let's change CV2, which is oscillator 2's pitch. Now we'll go minus, so now you see the pitch goes to 24, so that'll go down 2 octaves. So this is one way you can get the second oscillator to go lower than the first. So what happens? Change it to step sequencer again. 4 steps. Well, let's do 6 steps to get a bit of a polyrhythm going. Step 1, 30. Let's go up an octave, let's turn it down. Let's just see what happens. Turn them all up. Let's change some of these values. don't know what keeps it, what number level. Yeah, it's quite hard to tune because I don't know if it's only going over an octave. If I do it 100% of everything, it just changes the octave. But what from 0 to 100, what in between makes you hit certain notes? Let me just change that to 2 steps. So 75 seems to hit quite nicely. So let's add in another note. Try 50. So yeah, quite hard to hit the notes, but you can start getting polyrhythms going with the wave and with the oscillator tunings, and then you've got all the other things you can modulate: resonance, cutoff, VCA, filter, frequency, and there's meant to be more updates apparently before the end of the year to give you more destinations, which would be great, really. Just the more the better. But yeah, it's quite hard to find that sweet spot tuning wise. Just for the hell of it, let's put some resonance, not resonance, cut off. And by the way, you can have all these destinations at the same time. So you still see I've still got resonance on there. Got to be careful sometimes, because sometimes you can do something and then you go, I'll change my mind, I'll put something else, I'll modulate something else, and you forget you've still got a modulation amount going on something else. So all of these you can have all active on the one modulator. So let's go to sync options. Let's tie that in as well. So yeah, cool. I think that's the advantage of having the oscillators set up like this. You can just start getting some weird things by modulating the waves. And in a later video, I'll get into the sequencer and then using the modulator step sequences with the sequencer, and you can get some really cool stuff in there. But yeah, that was just my little look at the oscillators.